You reach a certain mass, you get to where a certain number of people know you, and then your name spreads.
Welcome back to Life Worth Chasing. I'm your host, Chase Maher, and this show is about helping entrepreneurs build their business around their dream lifestyle. What's up, homies? Today on the show, I have an individual that owns and operates a family real estate investment business in Indianapolis. They specialize in wholesaling. They wholesale about 60 to 70 properties a year. They buy about 2 or 3 rentals at really good margins per year. Really interesting, the story about how they got started buying a portfolio of 13 duplexes. Pretty cool stuff there. I had a lot of fun talking with this gentleman, and I'm excited to bring him on the show. So welcome to the show, Pete Barrow of Parrot Property Group in Indianapolis.
Thanks, Chase. First, thanks for having me on. We're in Indianapolis. The name is Parrot Property Group. We came out here, my oldest son came out here about 6 years ago. We were in the DC area. My older son, Sam, never loved it there and just started driving around he saved his pennies. He started driving around the country looking at other cities. Anyway, he got as far as the West Coast and went through Texas and all this stuff. And Indy, for some reason, was the place he liked. And he didn't just like it because they have nice craft beer and stuff like that. He ran all the numbers. Look, he saw this as a place where the economy it never booms, it never busts. It just kind of creeps along steadily, inching upward. And he thought that was a good thing for an investor. So he also looked into the law. It's pretty landlord friendly, at least so far it is. So I came out here and looked at it too, and I saw what he liked, and he bought a house. I started coming out here working on the place. And, I'd sort of fantasized for years. I was a carpenter for 35 years. I'd always fantasized about buying rental properties. But I don't know if you know anything about the DC area, but it's very expensive to play in that sort of game. And there's just too many smart people with money. As soon as an area starts to catch on at all, it's just immediately snapped up and prices go through the roof, probably about like where you are, if there's even anything left out there like that. So he knew I had been sort of fantasizing about that, and he had it in his mind too. So he came out here, he got this house, and then we started looking around for other houses, and we bought a foreclosure, and we bought a nice big duplex that some landlord was sick of owning, and we just kept rolling with that. And then what happened next was we were kind of stuck. We didn't have a ton of money, but one of my carpentry customers I've been working for forever just asked, I told her what we were doing, and out of the blue, she offered to invest with us, which is why it's nice to know people for 35 years and treat them right, So they put down a big chunk of change, and Sam found them. Sam is my older son. Sam found them a big package of 13 of these gigantic 20s duplexes, what used to be a grand old area that's now coming back. It's recovering. It's between 2 really well-established areas, and it's filling in. So we got them a big package of houses, and that's where we learned to be property managers. That's where we learned to do maintenance. And my younger son, Isaac, came out here and did the management. But the guy who sold us those also had another package of 4 that we didn't want, and that's where we learned what wholesaling is. We just sold them on to another investor. So in one big chunk there, we got like 26 doors, discovered buying and holding and wholesaling and a whole bunch of other stuff all in one. We went on like that for a year or so, and then the investors came to understand something that your listeners probably don't want to hear, but that real estate isn't as passive as everybody tells you. They were tired of being on the phone with us all the time, making decisions. So we got financing and bought them out. They were happy. They made about 15% on their money for the year. And we were happy. We got a big package of 26 doors. And then we just went on from there, adding to that and wholesaling and maintaining our stuff and working insane hours.
That's amazing. So your very first deal, aside from the house that your son bought, was a conglomerate, if you will, a portfolio of duplexes. Those jumped right off the cliff straight into that. That's kind of the way that I like to do things too. After that, there was 4 that you didn't want, but you guys were probably thinking, how can we make money on these deals? So did you guys put those under contract and you just assign them to some buyers as well?
Yeah, I wasn't even out here when that happened, but I think that's what we did, just to sign the contract.
Cool, man. Very cool. We got a lot of the agents and wholesalers and investors and some other people in some other industries that listen to this show. So I think that a lot of people like to think, when we start out, we have to start out small, but that's not the truth. You can jump straight to it. You can leapfrog a lot of the stages. And it seems like that's what you guys did. And I bet it served you well.
It really made us. It really did. We would still be doing okay, but we'd have, outside of that big package of houses, we've bought, 2-3 houses a year. So we would still be creeping up slowly. But that was just a huge, huge boost. And it's good to have young people around. You obviously feel like my son does. I would never have taken a leap like that. That doesn't mean if you go out and buy 26 doors at once that you're definitely going to succeed. We got an incredible price on these things.
Yeah, man. So let's talk about the portfolio purchase, just to give us an idea. Do you mind sharing the numbers in terms of, the discount you got on them? Like what percent of ARV you guys bought them on? What do they rent for? And where are you at with them now?
I think the investor paid about a little under $900,000 for 13 houses. So
looks like you got them for about $70,000 a pop.
Yeah. Some of them were a lot better than others. Some of them were a little further uptown. And those we probably paid over 100 for. So that means we got some of them for in the 50s.
Right. And what do they rent for now?
They rent for anywhere from $750 a side up to a couple of them were 5 bedrooms, three floors plus a full basement and a 5-bedroom house. Some of those were getting like $1,100 a side for. Those were rare, but on average, $750, $800, maybe $850 a side. Yeah, it was great cash flow. Of course, we didn't take the money and go on vacation. We took the money and used it to fix the houses up and buy more houses. But what's happened with them lately is it's had a pretty insane run up in the last few years. I think we got here just in time. We've just been looking at them lately and saying, hey, compared to what we paid for this, we're hitting the 2% rule. But compared to what we could get for it, we're not. And that's really what you've got to think about, because if you could sell the house for $150,000 and you're getting $1,500 a month, then you're at the 1% rule no matter what you paid for it, because that's your money sitting there. And that's the situation we were in. Some of those places had run up to, I think the best we got for one of them, the one out of the ones that we kept, I think the best that we got was like 180, something like that. But for a house you bought for $70,000 4 years ago, that's terrific. So
yeah, that's incredible. Congrats to you and your sons on that, because that's some phenomenal work. So Pete, share with me sort of where you guys are at now in terms of your business model. You guys doing mostly rentals, mostly wholesales? I understand you send out a lot of mail. Where are you guys at now with your business, so we can dive into that a little bit?
We started out buying and holding, and we thought we'd do that forever. And then we started managing and maintaining for these investors, and we discovered wholesaling in the same step. Lately, we've discovered what I call accidental flips. An accidental flip is where you get a house and you start working on it to turn it into a rental. But by the time you get it done, we have a small crew. It's slow. By the time you get it done, you notice that it's gone up so much that it doesn't make sense to keep it as a rental anymore. So it just became a flip without you meaning to. We've had a couple of them lately. One in particular, the neighbor turned into hipster town. When we bought it, it was across the street from a warehouse with a recycling place. By the time we finished it, the warehouse was full of little hipster businesses like breweries and craft shops. So that one, we've got about 120 in it. We could rent it for about $1,200. We just sold it for like $220. So that's what we're doing lately. And we're still, things are high, but we're finding we can still make some acquisitions. It's just nobody's offering us to buy beautiful old duplexes for $70,000 anymore. We're having to go out and dig a lot harder. But really the core of our business right now is we've sold at least more than half of our portfolio, and we're really focusing on the wholesaling business. So
let's talk about that, because to me, it sounds like you guys must be really good at finding off-market deals at a discount, because if you're able, you just said, 120, fix it up, sell it for 220. I mean, we're talking 50, 60% of ARV there. So what are you guys doing to find these off-market deals? What's your specialty, the secret sauce?
Well, if I tell you, I have to kill you, right?
Yeah.
There is no secret. We send out a lot of postcards, or we have been. We have a nice brand, the Parrot. We have a nice, colorful Parrot logo, which catches people's eye. So everyone's deluged with postcards these days. I get them myself. And every time someone calls us to come look at a house, When we go to their house, we see our postcards there, but 6 or 8 more postcards too. It's just ours has a parrot on it. It's nice and bright. So they call us. One guy actually called us because he had parrots. He was like,
Did you buy that house?
yeah, we did. We bought it.
Wow.
I'm not sure that's strictly logical, but I'm glad he called us. But we send out a lot of postcards now lately. Like I said, since everyone's doing that, that makes it not the thing to do anymore.
Maybe I should make a brand with a dog so I can get everybody that has a dog.
But yeah, well, there are a lot more of them. So
there's a lot more of those.
That's not a bad idea. A dog and a cat, and you'd have it covered.
There you go. So what's like the science behind the postcards? How often are you hitting people, and what types of lists are you targeting?
Well, my son Sam is a computer guru. He's very good at writing whatever software we need. So we're just, all our software is our own. And he's, a lot of people know how to do this, but he's pretty good at going out and mining the data and finding, sometimes we'll just send a postcard to everybody who owns a house in Indianapolis, but lives out of state and is over 65 and has been cited for not mowing their grass. That's a landlord who's sick of being a landlord, possibly.
So out-of-state owners, and then just like different things, like different violations that the city might have on record, and you just sort of stack it with that.
Yeah, and I think one thing a lot of people look for in this business is find people who have a lot of equity, because then there's something to work with. If they've got $50,000 in a house, then there's something to work with. They might be willing to knock that way down because they'll still walk away with a lot of money. Someone whose house is mortgaged to the hilt is not someone you can work with.
And how much mail do you guys send out a month?
I think at the peak, we were sending maybe 20,000 cards a month.
Have you guys slowed down a little bit since then?
Yeah, because like I said, everyone's doing it. You got to find something else. So we've got a woman who works for us who just cold calls people all day and doesn't seem to mind it. You've still got to turn the people up. But, the people you would send a postcard to, you just call them up. I think she's had pretty good luck with that. We're also doing, we have a billboard. We have a pretty nice website. If you just Google Parrot or Parrot Property Group, you'll find it. Sam has done a pretty good job of getting that up in the rankings so that, if you Google sell my house fast in Indy, it's going to be, pretty near the top of the results. So we got that. And then, the interesting thing is once in a while, you just by being outdoors, walking around, working outside, wearing a shirt with a parrot, having a truck with a parrot sticker on it, and just sitting in a restaurant. I've gotten deals, not many, but just sitting in a restaurant once, and I heard some guy talking on the phone, and he was obviously talking to his tenant who wanted to buy his house, but wasn't coming up with the money. Whenever just talked to him for a while, wasn't really thinking about getting his house. We just talked about real estate. He was sort of an amateur who owned just a couple of houses. I just thought I'd give him some free advice. We talked for a while. I gave him a card, and I didn't think anything come of it. And a couple of weeks later, we bought that house from him, made like $20,000 on that. So that was a pretty good lunch. I think we got another house from him later. I've gone in restaurants and just left cards stuck to the bulletin board and gotten calls and gotten houses from that.
So it sounds like you do a good bit of marketing with the postcards. You got a cold caller that's always making calls. And then just through your brand of Parrot with billboards and trucks that are branded to it, word of mouth, I would imagine you guys are pretty popular. And then a website with some great SEO. So you're kind of doing all the basic stuff. There's a lot of people that are trying to get started that are trying to do the most sexy thing or the most creative thing. But when I talk to individuals like yourself that have had a lot of success, what I find is sticking to the basics, keeping it simple, but just doing it consistently. Is that something that you attribute a lot of your business to?
Yeah, I would say so. It's if I could think of something sexy to do, I would do it. I just can't think of it. We've come up with some funky little ideas that we may put into practice, but I'm not going to rent a blimp and fly over the Colts Stadium. That's too much money. I have gone on a number of podcasts, and people hear them and say, "Well, that guy sounds like he halfway knows what he's talking about." And they sound pretty solid. So maybe I'll look into them. But the other thing is just it's like any business. Just the longer you are in it, you reach a certain mass. You get to where a certain number of people know you, and then your name spreads. And you also have to provide a product people want. You have to be able to find what people want to buy and sell it to them at a reasonable price and treat them decently. And then then you build on that. You can't build a brand without having some kind of product that people want to buy.
So let me ask you this. So most of your business right now, you guys are focusing on wholesaling, or is it the property management that's more prominent?
We do very little property management except for our own properties. I think right now we're managing a few properties that we sold and we were already managing, so we kept managing them. Our business is wholesaling, managing the stuff we own, continuing to find and fix up other stuff and increase our portfolio very, very conservatively and cautiously and cheaply. And now, like I said, the full service brokerage, I'm not sure what that's going to involve, and the real estate software.
So on your acquisitions, your accidental flips or the rentals that you do take on, how are you guys funding those deals?
That's a good question. I mortgaged my house back in the DC area before I came out here, and that gave us our initial chunk of cash. When I came out here, I sold it, and the price of a little bungalow in the DC suburbs will buy you a lot of houses out here. So that got us our start. Then we just took every bit of cash flow we got out of our portfolio and plowed it into acquisitions, rehab, and maintenance. And we've taken every bit of money that we've made from our accidental flips and used them to buy more houses, which we might hold or might turn into more accidental flips. So we're just rolling from one thing to the next with the money we've got. We don't really have a big lender. Since that first investor, we haven't really gone out and looked for more money. If there's a downturn, I'm probably going to get on the phone to everybody I know back in Washington, see who wants to be a real estate lender. Make a safe 6 or 8% or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So are the most of the deals that you guys are doing duplexes and small single families?
Yeah, we're not really interested in, since we can't just go buy hundreds of houses, we're not interested in buying stuff that's just going to sit there and flow a little cash. It seems to me that, when I first started getting into this, I talked to an old guy who'd owned like 150 houses, and he told me something I didn't really want to hear, which is that he said, it's nice to get a little cash flow, but then your roof has to be replaced, and that wipes out 5 years of cash flow. So where you really make money is when you wake up one day and you realize, hey, this house is worth 3 times what I paid for it. I just kind of ignored all that because, it was a new thought to me. But over the last 4 years, I've come to see how true that is. So we're not interested in buying anything that we don't think has at least the possibility of really good appreciation, while at the same time being dirt cheap right now. And I probably don't have to tell you, you can't just, those things aren't just lying around. You have to, my sons they're always looking at the comps and seeing what's happening in the neighborhoods. And I'm always out driving around and seeing what's happening in the neighborhoods. So between those two things, we have a pretty good idea. If you find a hot neighborhood and you go one street over and nothing's happened, or better yet, one guy has done a beautiful rehab, but everyone else is not, then that's a good place to look. So at the same time, that's really not a part of our wholesaling business. You just can't find enough stuff like that to move it on to people. There are plenty of people who know how to buy places in low C and D neighborhoods and make them work as rentals. And they'll buy that stuff all day because they have a system. They can come in and for $10,000, they can get the house decent and rentable. They can get a tenant in there, and then they'll just suck money out of it forever. And there's not a lot of hope it's ever going to come up. But, like I said, the city's fairly stable. It's probably not going to go down too much either.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of your wholesale deals are in those neighborhoods where you can sell them real fast, but the ones just outside of those really hot neighborhoods, you guys start looking at them as a rental. Are those the types that you say you buy about 2 or 3 a year and keep them as rentals?
We probably wholesale 60 or 70 houses a year. And out of that, we'll pick 2 or 3 that meet just what we want. Nothing fancy, not expensive, but they're just right next to something, that makes them look promising.
Amazing. Well, it sounds like you got a couple smart sons with a father that has a lot of wisdom and able to really put it all together. And, Pete, I really appreciate you sharing all this with us. And I'd love to get your sons on the show and talk to all of you guys. This was a great episode, man. I appreciate it. Where you mentioned a website. Is there anywhere else, or can you mention that website again on where we can get more information about you guys?
You can reach us. I think the website's just Parrot Property Group or parrotpg.com. I think if you Google Parrot Homebuyers, if you just Google Parrot Indianapolis, you're going to get us. And let me give you a phone number. which is 317-204-2900. That's the office number. I did want to pitch, I think I told you, we were chatting before, my older son, Sam, is putting together software that we use, but he's thinking about licensing and marketing software for real estate industry professionals, wholesalers, brokers, even just investors. And what he's looking for, he's making the software. We'll thoroughly road test it by using it ourselves. What we need is a marketing partner, someone who wants to market it for us, for a split. So if anybody out there is listening, that's good at that, we'd love to hear from you.
I'll follow up with you on that, and I'll send you guys a note, and hopefully we can get you guys back on and chat about that a little bit more, because I'm definitely curious about it and interested in hearing about it. And Pete, I really appreciate your time today, man. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Likewise, you're a good interviewer. It's a pretty good skill to listen to someone ramble and then sum up what they said in 4 or 5 words.
Well, I've had a little bit of practice, and I've been in a lot of houses of homeowners and try to unpack the onion or peel back the onion on what they've told to me as well. So there's been a lot of practice for a lot of years.
I'm sure. All right. Well, thanks for having me on, Chase. It was a pleasure.
All right, Pete. All right, that's it for today's show. Listen, I really appreciate that you're taking the time out of your day to jump on, listen. Maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're driving. And if you're getting a ton of value like I am with having fun with this, I would really appreciate it if you just leave me a 5-star review, write a couple sentences. I read them all. If you want to tag your name, I can give you a shout out. We're growing fast and I'm just having a ton of fun. And so I'm looking forward to releasing the next one. I'll see you on the next show.